Hi there, welcome back. And in this first video, we're going to be looking at something called as resolution, because resolution is a setting that will go first into your camera. You'll have to input the resolution that you want to shoot your video at. So what is resolution? I'm not going to go into the technical side of things, but basically what resolution means is pixels. We're talking about pixels and how densely these pixels are put together in your video. So when you're seeing me talking right now, what you're actually seeing on your screen are these bunch of pixels that they are so densely populated together that you're able to see this image and you are able to comprehend what's going on. So the more the number of pixels that you see, the better the quality of the video. So we're going to be taking a deep dive into resolution by looking at three different types of resolution. SD, which is standard definition, which is something of the old now. We don't really use that, but we'll just talk about it a bit. Then we're going to be looking at HD, which is your high definition, which is something that we'll be shooting our videos at in this course. And of course, I'm sure this must be going on in your mind that of course we're also going to be talking about 4K, which is of course being used nowadays extensively, but it has some issues, but it's definitely the future. So we're going to be talking about 4K also. So when we take this deep look, we're going to be seeing how to set the resolution in your camera. No matter which camera you have, the process will remain pretty much the same like I'm going to be showing you. Then we're going to be looking at what is the resolution that you should be using for the videos that you're making, especially when you're starting out. And like I said, we're also going to be talking about some issues related to 4K, which is the future. So let's go inside our cameras and let's go inside our drawing board in order to understand resolution better, in order to come to know what is the exact setting that you should be using in your camera when you're learning videography. Let's go there. All right, so before we actually go into our cameras and we see how to select the resolution inside the camera, because that's going to be your first setting, we're going to just talk a bit about resolutions just for your general knowledge so that you know exactly why we're choosing a particular resolution when we show you the camera in a moment from now. Right, so let's start off with the first resolution, which was the standard definition or SD, which is 720 pixels wide and 480 pixels long. So if you have your screen or your monitor, wherever you're looking, wherever you're seeing your video, these resolutions just mean that, this is, for example, this is 720 pixels wide and 480 pixels long. And if you multiply this, these two numbers, that's how many pixels are there that you're seeing basically. So of course, as you move on from SD to HD, and by the way, these are just other names for these resolutions. So this is, for example, the 720 by 480 is also called as a 480p. So it's just named on the vertical side how many ever pixels that's, because I'm just writing this here so that, because oftentimes people will only call it like this, 480p, 720p. So you should just know that they're talking about these resolutions, right? So this one is not important because these were too few pixels for the technology that we have now, and so nobody really uses this anymore. But in fact, you must have noticed this a lot of times when you're watching YouTube videos, right? So they'll offer you, you'll see the resolutions in terms of these names, and let's say if your internet connection is not fast enough, then you must have often noticed that YouTube just downgrades your resolution and it takes you to the lower number. That's because then it's easy to buffer and stream your video because you have less pixels at play. Now, so nobody uses this because this doesn't look good, because the monitors that we have these days, the TVs that we have these days, they are capable of giving and providing a much better quality of picture, and therefore the next resolution was the HD, the high definition resolution, in which the pixels increase. So this is 1280 by 720, so 1280 pixels wide, 720, and if you multiply this roughly comes to around 1 million pixels, which is your 1 megapixel basically. Right, so these were a lot of pixels, therefore HD was very, very popular for a lot of time, also called as 720p. But this was also soon replaced, since a long time now, by full HD, which is, the pixels basically doubled. So you had 1920 pixels on the width side and 1080 pixels vertically. And if you multiply this was almost twice the amount as HD. So full HD is 2 million pixels, right? So that's double the amount of pixels. Therefore, the image quality improves. So the more the number of pixels you have, the details in the video are much better because of course more pixels are jammed together. So the more the number of pixels, the image quality of your video improves. And of course nowadays you have something called as 4K, which is, you know, this 3840 by 2160, and this 4K is actually named on the width. So this time it's not named on the vertical side. This actually, because it's close to 4000 pixels. So this is called 4K, and this is, you know, the latest buzzing thing in the video world these days. This is the talk of the town, but we're going to talk about these two mainly here with respect to the course that we're doing. So when I show you just in a moment from now, when we go into our cameras, we're going to be selecting this particular resolution. So this is the 1920 by 1080, also called as 1080p, and this is your full HD. And the reason, now you might be asking, but Kush, why don't we select 4K? Because you said the more the number of pixels, the better it is, right? So there are a lot of reasons for not selecting 4K right now, and especially when you're starting out. And some of those reasons are, the first important reason is that you may not have. Most of you who are watching this course in 2019, I'm guessing you won't have a camera which allows you to shoot at 4K. These are the newer cameras, you know, which allow you to shoot. So most of you, the max that you will be able to shoot is at this resolution, which is the full HD 1920. So that itself is one of the reasons why in this course, my advice to you would be to select this, and that's exactly what I'll be showing you when we go into our camera screen. There are certain more reasons that when you're starting out, you should not be using 4K. And those are that, let's say, even if you have a camera or you decide to invest in a camera which has 4K, which like everyone is doing nowadays, the other technology surrounding videos still hasn't really caught up for the average person. For example, you know, if you shoot everything in 4K, the size of the video really increases as compared to the 180p, the 1080p resolution. So you'll need massive data cards. Then, you know, you need very fast cards which can read everything from your camera very fast, because this is a lot of data, a lot of pixels that are, you know, going into your card. Then you need, let's say, when it comes to editing, and later on in this course we'll be looking at editing images, editing videos, I'm sorry. You'll find that, you know, this resolution, most of the computers, as long as you have a decent computer, this will be able, your editing software won't have any problems. But when it comes to 4K, you definitely need a good computer to edit and process and render the videos. Otherwise, it can become very slow, because this is again a lot of data for your computer to handle. Then, of course, another issue is that you may not need 4K. So when you're starting out as a beginner, you're not really going to be watching your videos on big 4K TVs, right? So you're going to be watching them, let's say, on mobile phones. You'll mainly be using it for social media, YouTube, and for those smaller things, if you're watching it on a smaller screen, like even a laptop monitor, it takes a trained eye to distinguish between 4K and full HD, because anyway, everything is so crammed up, and these are enough pixels to get by on those smaller screens. Yes, on the monitor, definitely, sometimes a lot of people say that 4K definitely looks better. But right now, to start out, what I would advise you to do is just avoid 4K till the moment you learn everything in this course. Once you know how to do everything with full HD, the same things are going to apply to 4K also. There's not going to be any difference because of the resolution. But it's just that your tasks, overall tasks related to the video shooting, will be much easier if you just stick to the full HD resolution right now. But of course, having said that, 4K is definitely the future, so don't be afraid to use 4K. It's the exciting thing right now in the video world, but I'm just saying for learning purpose, so that we are all on an equal plane, we'll be using this particular resolution, which is your 1080p or 1920 by 1080. So I'm going to show you right now how to set this resolution, because this is going to be our first setting before we start shooting our videos. So let's see how to set the full HD or the 1080p resolution on our cameras. So let's go then. Alright, so we have the Nikon camera in front of us. So in case you have a Nikon camera like this is the D5300, then this is how the process is going to look like to select your resolution. It doesn't matter which camera, you have to be frank. Usually it's done from the menu button, and you'll have to just take things from there. You can always see your manual. So this is the Nikon camera. I'm just going to press the menu button here. Then I'm going to go inside different menus here. So I'm going to go inside shooting menu. And there'll be some differences in every camera and how you do this, but it's very, very easy. Then I'm going to go down to movie settings, and then I select frame size or frame rate. And this is where you'll get your resolution that we were talking about. So the 720p, the 1080p, and you can see that, we've got 3 options for the full HD resolution, that is your 1920 by 1080. So which one do you select right now? Well, you're going to come to know of this in the next video when we learn about something called as frame rate. So these 60, 30 and 24 numbers that you see next to the resolution, they refer to the frame rate, and this is something that you're going to learn in the next video onwards. But right now I'm just going to show, we'll have to select 1920 by 1080. I'm going to go ahead and select 1920 by 1080 24p. That means I'm selecting the 24 frame rate. And why am I doing that? You'll come to know in the next video when you understand frame rate. But that is how you select your resolution. So we have selected the full HD resolution, and if I shoot a video right now using this camera, this is going to be a full HD video. Right, so now we have the Canon camera in front of us. This is the Canon 700D, and sometimes in some cameras, for example in this camera, before anything else you need to switch your camera to the video shooting mode, like you can see in front of you. For example, on the 700D it's done like this, by just flicking the switch over to the video option, and that will make sure that you're under the video settings. And then when you come back, you'll just basically have to do a similar procedure. You just go to your menu and you go to the option where it's, to the option where the video icon is there. So you can just see here. And on the 700D, if I just go to the second video option here, you'll see something called as, the movie recording size. So right now it's already set to the 1080p, but you can see here we have different options, and you can see here on this camera we've got 2 options: the 1080p 24 fps, that is the frames per second or the frame rate, and we also got the 25 frame rate. This is something that we're going to see in the next video, but basically that's how you select the resolution on this camera. So no matter which camera you have, you'll find ultimately the way to select your resolution, and as we'll be learning in the next video, you'll learn how to select your frame rate also. Right, so we're done here. I'll see you in the next video where we'll be talking about frame rates.